All right, so now when our services are ready, now let's work on endpoints. So we are using ASP.NET Core Minimal API. So we are going to create Minimal API endpoints. So in API project, first thing I'll do, I'll create a folder and name it endpoints. Okay, and inside this, I'm going to create a class. Let's name it auth endpoints. And this is going to be a static class because we are going to create extension methods on endpoint route builder for our APIs. So there should is going to be a method public static. I'm going to use endpoint route builder and return type, then map auth endpoints. And here we are going to have this endpoint route builder because I want it to be an extension method on endpoint route builder. And from this we will return our app. All right. Now for all the auth related endpoints, we are going to prefix our URL route with /API/auth. For this, what we'll do, we'll create an auth group on this app dot, we'll say map group. And here we are going to define our URL prefix API slash and auth. Now let's give it name using with tags. We'll say these are auth endpoints. Now on this auth group, we are going to define our endpoints. Or let's check our auth service, what all methods we have there. So we have register async, we have upload photo, we have login async. We have these three methods. And if you see, we will be using HTTP post for all of these three. All right, so let's go and start defining. First we have auth group dot map post register. So now we are defining this map post on auth group. So this URL would become /API/auth/register. All right. Now let's define its handler. So we are going to get register DTU as a parameter to this request from the request body. Then we are going to inject our auth service in this. Let's call it auth service. And we are good. And then we can simply define our logic here. So the logic, there is no logic in this. We'll directly return auth service dot register async DTU, and this is going to be awaited. And because this is a single line, there is no point of having these curly braces and all. We can directly say just this: await auth service register async, and with this happened. Oh, sorry, no need to add return if we have single line direct. With this, we are good. Our endpoint is ready for user registration. All right. Now on this, we will enhance it with one more thing. Instead of directly returning it, although it returns with OK status, but we'll use results.ok and then simply add this. All right. Now we'll give this a name. Okay. So let's say auth hyphen register. So this is auth register endpoint. And on this, we can define produces as well, what type of data it returns. So it returns API result of GUID. Okay, produces API result of GUID, and inside this we can provide our status code if we want to, but because the default is 200 only, so we'll go with this. Now let me move this with name to the very end. Now with this, our register endpoint is ready. Same thing we'll do for login. We just need to change this to login DTO, change this register async method to login async method. And what does login method returns? It returns API result of login response DTO. It is going to return So these things, these are not going to break anything. These are just for to understand what does this endpoint is going to return, and it helps in the documentation, API documentation. Then here we'll say auth login, and we have one more, upload photo async. Okay, so let's upload, use this as well. This is also going to be post endpoint only, because in this we want the iform file, right? All right. So here, what all we need user ID and iform file. So first thing, we will not get user ID from token or anything, because all these calls are allow anonymous. That means all these calls are before logging in. So this allow anonymous is default. All right. So here we can do this, maybe this register. After this, we can say user ID. We can get user ID in the URL only. This is going to be of type GUID. Then slash, let's say add photo. So now here, what we will get, first we'll get this user ID from the URL route. So here we can simply say GUID user ID. This name should match this and this, and type. So it will automatically bind this with this value from the URL. After this, we need our iform file, and then auth service. This is going to be passed, injected using our dependency container. So it's ASP.NET Core's responsibility. It will provide this for us. And here on this auth service, we'll say, what was that? Upload photo async. And in this, we need to provide user ID and photo. So user ID first parameter, photo second parameter. And what does it return? It return just API result. So we can simply change this to just return API result. And here we'll say auth add photo to user. Save, and we are good. Our auth endpoints are ready. Okay, we'll see if something needs to be changed. We'll see later when we'll be consuming these. Now after this, let's start building the second set of endpoints. Those are going to be post endpoint. Posts endpoints. Now same thing, public static class, then public static I endpoint route builder, map posts endpoints, this I endpoint route builder app, and return app from here. Okay, now let's see what all we have in our post service. First thing, we have save post async method. Okay. Before that, we'll define a group here as well. So we'll say posts group equals app dot map group. Okay, and here we'll say API slash posts, and let's give it a group name. So we'll say with the tags posts, and on this, all these post endpoints are going to be after logging in. That means for all these, we need authentication and authorization. For this, we'll say dot require authorization. So when we say require authorization, it is going to pass token with each and every request, so we can access the token. How would we do that? That I'm going to show you. First, we have save post async. Let's define this. So posts group dot. Now this is going to be map post, HTTP post basically, because we are creating or modifying an existing post. So we are actually sending some data, complex type to the API. So here we'll say slash. Here we have two things. Either we can have, oh, ideally using REST parameters, we should have two endpoints here. One is direct and one should be with slash post ID, like this. Post ID and void. And this should be actually map put or map patch. So map put or map patch. Ideally, it should be like this. But for the simplicity, I am going to use just map post, and I'm going to use a common method. So post.save. I'm going to use this. Here we'll say async. Then first, what we are going to get? We are going to get save post DTO from the request. Then we are going to inject post service. Okay. Now in here we can say var result equals post service dot save post async. We can pass DTO, and then second parameter is user ID. We need this user ID. Now we can have it as a parameter, but then it can be modified. We can have it in the URL, then it can also be changed. So we will get the user ID from the token. Require authorization we already have, so authentication token, authentication mechanism will already work. How this works? It actually sets the claims principal for us, and we can inject claims principal in this. So we'll say claims principal. It should be principal. It is going to be injected. Let's have it as the last parameter. Order does not matter. We have this principal. From this claims principal, we are going to get a user ID. We'll say var user ID equals principal dot. From here we can get claims, or we can say find first value and then claim type. For this we have used claim types dot name identifier. If you remember, when we created RJWT token, so here we have this. So name identifier is actually our user ID. Okay. Now this is going to give us string value. So we just need to parse it to GUID. So we'll say GUID dot parse. Although we should use try parse and all, but here we know it should be. If it is not, let it break. Now we have this user ID which we can pass, and then we can simply say return results dot okay, this result, and here we can say this produces. What does this returns? Say, where is it? Save post async returns API result. So here we'll say it produces API result, and then we can give it a name. So with the name save post. Using this we are good. Now this line, getting the user ID, we are going to use it a lot of times, basically almost each and every endpoint for post and for user, and sometimes we will need more than just identifier. All right. So for this, it's better to create extension methods on this principle to get these values. All right. So for this, I'm going to create a class in this API project only. I'll say, let's say just extensions, because these are going to extension methods. So let's make it static and public static. Here we'll see first I need to get the user ID from the principal, right? Let's change, let's have a nested class here, public static class claims extensions, to make this grouping. This is just for our readability that these are claims extensions. Claims principal extension. Now we can have public static void get user ID this claims principal, and from here we can do this same line. Now ideally you will have the validation logic here. Now you will check if principal, what is it, principal spelling, yes, if principal dot identity dot is authenticated and all these things you will check, and then instead of using guid dot parse, you might want to try parse and all these things to validate. But for the simplicity I'm going to just use parse only. So now we have get user id method. What is happening here? Extension method must be defined top level. Okay, so the nested class does not work. Okay, let's get it out of this, and maybe let's rename the file name to claims extension only. Claims principal extension. All right. Now after this get user ID, we will need one more where we will get the complete logged in user. So logged in user. We'll say get user. Okay, using claims principal only. Now we will provide a complete body for this, because here for logged in user we need all these fields: ID, name, email, photo, URL. Okay, so getting ID is easy. We can just say var user ID equals this thing, or because we already defined this method, we can try this. Just principal dot get user ID. All right. Then we'll simply copy this inner line. Then we'll say var name equals this. Copy it couple of times. For name, we are using name. For email, we are using claim types dot email, and then we have photo URL. Photo URL. For photo URL, what are we using? Go to auth service and check user photo URL. You can add this to some constants. Okay, so for photo URL, we are using this thing. Now we have all the information. Then we can simply say return new logged in user and user ID, name, email, photo URL, and then we'll be good. Cool. Now let's go back here, and for user ID we can directly say principal dot get user ID, or we can directly use it in here user ID, so we don't need to create this extra variable. Now because this is direct single line, we are not performing anything. Okay, here it should be awaited. We can directly add this inside results.ok as well. And now because this is single line, we can directly have it without these parentheses. So it's totally up to you how you are formatting your code. Now we are good. We have created our save post endpoint. Now let's see what next. Get posts async. Okay, let's define this, and it has these three parameters. Basically these two are going to be provided from the URL only, from query string. So let's go to our endpoints, posts group dot map get, and here we will have just slash, nothing else. So slash API slash posts, the URL would be this only. Now async. Then when we'll add handler, we are having the start index and page size. These are primitive data types, int and int, and we have not defined these in our URL route. So these are going to be provided by query string by default. All right. And after this, we just need to use service and our principal. Okay. Then we can say simply results dot okay, await, and post service dot get posts async. And inside this, we need to provide our start index, our page size, and our user ID, which we can get from principal dot get user ID. Alright, and this is going to give us dot produces. It returns us a post DTO, array of post DTO, and for this we'll give it a name, get posts, and this endpoint is also ready now. Save it. Cool. Let's see what else we have in our post service. Save comment and get comments. Here we'll have post group dot map post to create the comment. Here now this comment will belong to some post. So here we'll have API slash post slash post ID which will be GUID, and then slash comments. Alright, this is going to be our URL. Then async. First we'll get our post ID, then we'll get our request body, that will be save comment DTO, and then we are going to have these two things, post service and our principal. Alright, then we need to provide body for this, and that will simply say results dot okay await post service dot not get save comment async, and inside this we need to provide DTO and our current user, logged in user. This we can get from principal dot get user. Okay, then we just need to have this, what type of response it produces and what is the name. So produces API result of comment DTO, right? Yes, API result of comment DTO, and then with the name save comment. Save it, and now we are good. Next thing is get post comments async. So we can actually copy this one, get posts, we'll add it, and here we are going to have this same URL, this post ID and then comments. This time map get, we will have start index page size, and we'll have this post ID as well. So GUID post ID, start index, post service, and claims principal. Now in this, do we need claims principal? No, we can skip this. Right, here we'll say post service dot get post comments async, and it needs post ID, start index, page size. Post ID we have, start index, page size we have. We can remove this principal dot get user ID from here, and then it is going to return us comment DTO, array of comment DTO. The name we can say get post comments, and we are good with our comment endpoints as well. Then we have toggle like and toggle bookmark. Let's do these as well. So these are also going to be post, or we can say patch, and this is going to be post. So functionality wise, nothing is different. So here we'll say post ID. Now for this we can generate URL in a number of ways, but very basic, we can simply use direct name. So let's say toggle like. Okay, now for this one, what we need, we have post ID and we have current user ID. That is the only thing which we need, right? So post ID we need. So let's do this. Let's have this post ID here and then toggle like. We have this post ID. Then we are going to have our user ID from the claims principal only. Then we'll say post service dot toggle like async post ID and then user ID, current user ID, get user ID, and we are good. Here we can say toggle like, save it, and we are good. And then it produces API result, I think. Yes. Happened. Yeah. Then let's copy this for our bookmark. So we'll say toggle bookmark and we'll just change this method name to toggle bookmark. Save it and change this name as well. Toggle bookmark. Nothing else needs to be changed. All right. Now after that we have delete post async, the same post ID and API result. So here we'll say post group dot map delete. We are going to create a delete endpoint for this. Okay. Now here we can get the same user ID, sorry, post ID in URL parameter. Then we'll say sync with post ID, then claims principal and post service. All right. Here we'll simply say results dot okay. Results dot okay and await service, which is our post service dot delete post async, and we need to provide post ID and user ID. So principal dot get user ID. And then this produces and with name, so produces API result, and with name we'll say delete post, and we are good with this also. So that with this we have completed all our post endpoints. Now we have one more service, that is user service. So there we have user endpoints where we are going to have change photo, get user post, and get user bookmark post. So these three things. Let's quickly work on this. So we are going to create one more class here, public static class. Here we'll say user endpoints, public static I endpoint route builder, map user endpoints, and this I endpoint route builder, and we are going to name it, you guessed it right, app, and then just return app. And here we'll create our user group. We'll say app dot map group slash API slash user, and on this we'll say require authorization. Here also we need authorization, and then dot with tags user, user, just user. All right. Now we are going to define our endpoints here. So we are going to have one post endpoint for change photo async and two get endpoints for these two things. Right? So user group dot map post API slash user, and here we'll say change photo async. Here we are going to get I from file as a parameter photo, and then we'll inject our I claim that claims principal and our user service. So we'll inject user service and claims principal. Okay, and then we'll simply return results dot okay await user service dot change photo async. We need to provide photo and current user id that we can get from principal dot get user id. All right, then produces api result and with name change photo. Cool. Now we have these get user post and get user bookmark post. So for this we can copy the get endpoint from our post service and this post endpoint, this one, because the signature and all everything is going to be same. We'll just change this group to user group. Okay, and then we can say my posts, or we can say simply api user slash posts. Here we'll say user service, name it user service. Then we'll say get user post async, and name we'll say get user post. Now we can simply copy this, and then here we can say user slash bookmarked post, get user bookmark post, and with this all our endpoints are ready. Right now we are in auth endpoints class. Let's move all these to separate classes, separate files. So move type to post endpoints, move type to user endpoint. All right, now we just need to call these. We'll go to program.cs, and here we have app.run. Before this we'll say app.map auth endpoints. Here we can chain these calls after map at auth endpoints, post map post endpoints. Then we can say map user endpoint. Now all our endpoints are ready and everything is ready. Cool. Now we are using authentication and authorization. We are using require authorization. We are using JWT tokens. We have created services, but we don't have actual authentication and authorization mechanism injected in our pipeline and in our ASP Netcore application. So that we'll do next. We'll add authentication authorization to our API in program.cs. All right.